Yeah, I learnt a lot from the antenatal classes we went to, but one thing they don't come anywhere near explaining or preparing you for is the minefield that is the change in your wife's body and mind. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people watching this programme now are in a state of hormonal flux and probably disagreeing with everything we say. But it's just wasn't in any way, shape or form prepared. So physically, it was really interesting. As my wife, the one thing she liked about being pregnant was the way her body was. She was really proud of her pregnant shape. She felt very sexy. That changed immediately after she had the baby. And even now, he's 9. There's still that sort of constant examination to see whether there's stretch marks. I don't think they can come back, but then you say things like that. Well, don't be flippant. I'm not being flippant. I'm trying to point out that I don't think stretch marks can come back once they've got rid of them. Exactly. No, and as you say, you can't win sometimes, and you back away. But I kind of think now, after 9 years, you kind of want to say, oh, it should be done and dusted by now. Sure. I don't know how many times I can tell you that I love you and that you're physically attractive until it starts sounding trite and as though I don't love you and you're physically attractive, you know.
I think most men will be sitting there and I think everyone's gone through, does my bum look big in this? And then you go, no, it's your bum that looks big, okay?
Doesn't matter what you wear.
No, don't say it. You're thinking it, but don't say it. Lovely, you know?
I like a big bum, darling.
It's taken a couple of years.
Well, that's the trouble, because my default setting, my default setting, I deal with a lot of emotional stuff by humour. My initial reaction to a lot of things is to make a joke about it, and it's really such the wrong thing to do. It's such the wrong thing to do.
But you can blame it. That's a great thing about it. You're like, hold on a second, that's just humour. It's a joke. Why marry you?
It's like the Simpsons, tumbleweed goes through the house. I've said the wrong thing again, haven't I?
I get back from work, actually, when Teresa was pregnant with our first one, and I almost felt like Lord Lichfield, because she said, no, you've got to take a picture, and she'd be standing there naked, sort of cuddling this and doing all this sort of stuff, and take a picture of this one and everything. And by the end of it, we'd snapped away about 50 shots, and so she loved it beforehand. But there wasn't the kind of... I think I was perhaps lucky in the sense that afterwards there wasn't this kind of great big roller coaster ride of does my backside look big in this or whatever. And I think I don't know whether Teresa just sort of dealt with it herself and internalised things. I don't know whether that went on or what.
But you're probably, because you must have a problem, because there's 7 years.
8 years between the
So
two.
presumably your wife had completely sort of physically recovered.
Yes.
I mean, had she forgotten about the stress, or was she just...
Well, I think with the first one, she didn't know what to anticipate. To anticipate. So her body changed, and it was that period where she was going through the hormonal changes, and you're kind of trying to read a little bit about it, and you're kind of like, okay, look, you've got to realise sort of your hormones. You know, if you're slightly getting bigger in certain areas, or you're getting a little bit more hairy in others, or whatever the case may be, you've got to go through it, and then you try and set them down, but they don't want to know. Because that's just women. They don't want to hear it. Well, they just want to talk about it and put you through a little bit of a hell.
I realise that. Did you read about that, though? Because I have to say, I'm not very well read in that case.
Well, it's not so much reading about it, but I'd pick up little things from the doctor or from the midwife that came around, and every time she sort of left the room to make a cup of tea for the midwife, she'd say, look, she's going through a hormone change. Be patient. You know, your mum would sort of say, look, you do realise the hormones. You know, she was getting a bit narky with me. I said, what's the problem? It's the hormones, darling.
Yeah,
what the hell are hormones?
You know what? I think women get away with murder with that sometimes. Exactly, hormones. Because they know for a fact there are certain things we're not going to ask about. And hormones is one of them. Just go, oh, fair enough, hormones, back away.
When she was sort of getting big, and after my wife was pregnant, she continued getting a bit bigger for a while. And I remember saying, right, zip it. No, exactly. Exactly. I want to say, I hope you're not watching this later on. But she got a bit bigger. But the funny thing is that I said to myself, don't say anything. Yeah. Just zip it. Because if I say lose weight, she's going to go, you freak off, that didn't work. So a long time kept quiet. Well, obviously as life goes on, you take a few family pictures, and she turns around to me and she says, why the hell did you tell me I was getting that big? And she puts a big fork of food in her mouth and goes, snatch. She'll realise one day, look at that. And I just bring it out every now and again just to let her know, a picture.
So he did just drop pictures around the house.
There's a picture. She went, why didn't you tell me I was getting that big? Because I wasn't allowed to say anything. And even when I did sort of every now and again, I might dart in and say, look, I'm not going to say anything. You do it in your own good time sort of thing. And took a few pictures every now and again, bring them out, and she'd suddenly go, what? And she really had a go at me. Yeah. Why didn't you tell me I was getting that big? I was like, I did tell you a couple very slightly, but I wasn't going to make a big issue out of it.
They're not rational creatures, are they?
That's not at all.
I think one of the problems as well is when you're looking in magazines and pictures, and you're looking at Jordan and Davina on that magazine there, and people, they've had babies, and then like 3 weeks later, look completely the same as they always did.
Because I remember Princess Diana, God bless her, because she was nearly 6 foot, and she was an unnatural sized 10, and that's not a natural size for women to be. But so many women adopted that as a norm. And I think every magazine I've seen this week on its front cover has got a picture of a different celebrity and how long it's either my hell getting back to my pre-birth weight, or look how quickly I got back to it. And you have to say, it's not natural, it's not like that. Your body stays elastic. Your body's not meant to go back to that shape.
Can we just say, for the books, because hopefully there are a lot of women going to be watching this programme, that men don't actually like skinny women, or am I the only? We don't actually want wafer thin, you know, because they don't believe that. I don't think they believe it, and I'm quite disappointed as a publisher myself. And I think it's important that the messages I'm sending out to my daughter, that everything's not about dieting. We're very careful with my daughter's diet as well. That I don't like to say, look, you shouldn't eat this, shouldn't eat that. I try and say, look, just everything in moderation to a certain extent. But I don't like the fact that the fashion magazines are going back to, because about a year or two ago they were getting really good about it, and then now just flip back again.
But I really had to work hard to persuade Ali that, yes, her body did look different after the baby was born. No, it wasn't any less attractive. But also, impossibly, I loved her even more because she was now the mother of my child. Exactly. But it's really hard to make her understand that.
It's a deeper thing.
Of course it is, yeah. And it's still the physical attraction is there. But whether it's hormones, I don't know. But she seemed very reluctant to believe that. Well, I really had to work hard to persuade her. And the hormone thing's interesting because I wondered beforehand whether there's like a male hormone that kicks in, because I expected when Ed was born and he was put into my hands, I expected some kind of hormone to kick in and that you suddenly just big huge flush of love, and I just felt quite interested. I thought, oh, this is interesting. And clearly you love your child straight away, but there wasn't like a hallelujah sunburst thing, which I thought was going to happen. I thought the chemicals would change in my head. And it took me, because I was away a lot, because he was being breastfed, it took me a year before I kind of really felt genuinely bonded with the baby. And that surprised me, because I thought there would be a kind of hormonal physical thing.
Sometimes it's just little situations that occur that make you feel that kind of, you know, suddenly something happens, he does something, or my daughter does something.
I was highly delighted, but I didn't have the same... With Ali, you could see as soon as she held the baby in her arm, you could sense that something had changed in her head. You could sense a switch had been flicked and that nature was making her protect that child. But with me, of course, I was delighted. I was overjoyed. I couldn't be more happy. But I didn't feel that sudden, immense burst of protective joy that she clearly did, which surprised me.
I understand what you're saying there, because I saw a definitive change in my wife. As she became a mother. Before I would say that she was quite individual, somewhat selfish, and suddenly she had opened up her...
You really want to hope she's not watching this.
No, she was, but I like that. She was quite, exactly. Edit that bit, exactly. But no, she suddenly became this very, sensitive, more so, I should say more so. You are right, but I did notice a big difference, and it was like a switch going on, because I was like, oh my goodness, that's a different perspective. She was able to switch it on and switch it off a bit, so...
It's because the baby's been part of her...
of course.
But as an observer, you can sort of see it more.
You're talking about the change of the bodies and everything. You're talking about, in your role as well as an editor. And the problem is, as you say, isn't it, when you've got Catherine Zeta-Jones delivering a baby in 1 week, and then the next month with hard work, what they're not seeing is the personal trainer working every hour that God gives to get exactly. She's not even seeing, and everyone thinks that they can do it, and you just can't. And as you said, it doesn't make you love them any less as a result of it. Which is,
I think there is a tendency in magazines and newspapers to make motherhood seem much easier than it clearly is. Physically, and it's almost a tendency for them to present as though if you can't breastfeed, you're not a good woman. If you're still fat after 9 months, you're not a good woman or a good mother. You're letting your child down, and it's not like that. Nature knows best. If nature, if your body's elastic after you've had a baby, that's for a reason. If your breasts hurt, that's because they're full of milk. It's like nature doesn't want you.
But that's exactly right, and Teresa had the 3 cesareans, and it wasn't because she wasn't too posh to push. There's nothing to do with it. Just that it was the shape of her pelvis. But actually, the guilt that she felt after that, because it was just at the time, and everyone was going through this, and all the questions people would say, "Oh, did you have a natural baby?" No, I had a cesarean, and all the automatic assumptions that were clearly made when they spoke to her about it. And it was terrible.
So it's very unfair.
And she also felt that she'd actually sort of slightly failed because she hadn't managed to give a delivery sort of naturally.
But there is so much pressure, because women, they do tend to sit around in groups, they get to know each other in the antenatal wards, etc. And I'm going to have this, I'm going to have that, and then it continues afterwards with the coffee mornings and the meet up. And so they're under immense pressure, but it's also about responsible journalism as well, isn't it? Because again, the magazines and newspapers, reports and everything go, hark back to the fact of, you should be this shape, you should give natural birth. So I think it's very tough on them.